Alright, hi friends. So, welcome to Pussycat's Goat Homestead. This video is going to be a bit of an intro into how my channel works and the three pillars of how I homestead and what I do on my little urban homestead, my backyard. Thanks to some feedback, I've taken notes. I'm writing stuff down so I don't say the same thing over and over again, and so yeah, I guess we should probably get into it. By the way, this is Dracula. Dracula is going to help me present this knowledge to you, okay? Purely because if you want a video to go viral, a cute animal really helps. If you don't have a nice butt, cute animal, not a good butt. So basically how my channel is going to work is I'm going to talk about the three pillars in a moment, and every video I make will be, I'm going to try and keep things short and simple, and down to under 10 minutes, but then they'll be divided up into sections, into the three pillars, which are soil, plants and animals. So you can watch each video in order. Probably not, it's not going to be a step-by-step process, because this is not a step-by-step process, but you can see things from how they work, in whether you're looking for a video about composting, well, that's soil and how that interplays with all the soil. Plants, which plants you're selecting, and etc. And your animal videos about, you know, how those all work, and you know, different care techniques and things like that. So hopefully this will make it easier to navigate and understand each pillar individually, but also then how each thing informs the next and the previous one. So the three pillars are, as I mentioned, soil, plants and animals. Soil grows plants. Plants feed animals. Animals feed me and feed the soil. The plants also feed me and feed the animals, and in some cases the soil. The soil is where worms live, and the worms feed the quails, and so on and so forth. There is nothing that is standalone in this process, and every single decision that I make around here is going to be based on those three pillars, and if it's going to help not just one pillar, for example, not just myself. I don't want to grow something purely because it feeds me and me alone, but I want it to be able to feed either the animals or the soil, etc., etc., etc. So there's a whole system going on, and it all swings in roundabouts. So let's dive into the first one. The first one is soil. There is no first step, but if there was one, it would be soil. Soil, obviously, that's the ground that we walk on, upon which we build everything. It's where we grow our plants. The things that I'm going to mention and talk about over this year, and by the way, this is a 1-year project, 4 seasons project for me and for you. So the things I'll mention are the soil structure, and that relates to, you know, is it rocky, clumpy, sandy texture? So is it a really heavy clay? The pH, so pH is the acidity and alkalinity, and that can make or break your vegetable garden. So I've got tomatoes over there, and they like a very acidic soil. Okay, there, Dracula. They like a very acidic soil, or a lightly acidic soil. If you have a very alkaline soil, you won't be able to grow your tomatoes. They just won't like it. So things like that. So they'll grow the plants that we feed to the bunnies and to myself. The bunnies will create the manure, and we're going to talk a lot about manure. they will create the manure that fertilizes the soil. We'll also talk about compost, because compost is just, for one thing, it's just hell of a lot of fun doing it, and it is a great way to make soil amendment if you don't want to have animals. But we'll get to that later. The next pillar of greatness over here is plants. So the plants, as I said, they feed me, they feed my animals, and they're why I did so much work on the soil in the first place. So we work hard on the soil so we can grow good plants, feed me and the animals. Plant selection is really the big key point here. So we select plants on different criterias. First and foremost, like, do I like it? Do I want it? There's not a lot of plants that I don't like. I pretty much like all veggies. So, but if you don't like radishes, don't grow radishes. If you don't like tomatoes, don't grow tomatoes. If you really, really like potatoes, grow potatoes. It's that simple. Does it fit your climate? So here I'm in a temperate region, I'm in Sydney. So growing things like blueberries, and it could work. Mostly out in like Western Sydney. I'm in the inner west. Out in Western Sydney, like in Blue Mountains, would probably be great for growing raspberries, blueberries, but not going to work around here. I've tried it, doesn't work. Do we get enough sunlight? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Growing in Sydney is pretty good, actually. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do. Asking, does it fit the climate is one of those big things. Does it fit the soil type? So if you're homesteading on a beach and you've just got sand, what you grow there will be very limited. You'll be growing warrigal greens and not much else. And the last question that I always ask, or a big question actually for me, is can I feed it to my animals? So for example there, I grow a lot of sweet potato and sunchokes. Jerusalem artichokes they're called here. I learned about them from an American, so I call them the American name. They're just kind of stuck. So I grow a lot of those because I can feed them, because I will eat the roots, the tubers, and they will eat the leaves and stems. Likewise for carrots. Rabbits don't eat carrots, or they can't eat too many carrots and make them sick, but they can eat the leaves. So I eat the orange part and they eat the green part. Where are you going, Dracula? I need you to sit up here, pose for me. That's it, be a good boy. I don't know if you're a boy yet. You're too young to have those gender roles assigned upon you. I'll just let you be a little bunny. Plant selection is a big one that we're going to talk about, and the different plants and their different requirements, and the soil and plants are going to really be, they're two sides of the same coin. And then last but not least is animals. So the importance of animals is basically they're not 100% important. If you're a vegan, vegetarian, you can absolutely do all the gardening and stuff that I talk about without animals. It's totally fine. However, one day you're probably going to amend your soil with a bag of manure that you buy at a store. So why not create manure in-house and fertilize your garden with that? To that end, you need to decide, what you're capable of. But basically, if you are going to have animals, the good thing is that they're going to fertilize your soil, and they'll eat what you can't eat. So I can't eat grass. I don't have the gut bacteria, and I can't support the gut bacteria to eat grass. But little Dracula here does have such gut bacteria, and he loves to eat grass. He'll eat sunchoke leaves, he'll eat sweet potato leaves, he'll eat weeds that I don't much like. I forage for dandelions often, and I eat the roots of the dandelion, and I feed him the flowers and them. You love that, don't you? Yes, you do. They feed the soil. Their manure does feed the soil, and because I have these and quail, I can throw their manure straight on the garden. I don't have to compost it first. Whereas I also have quail, and their manure has to be composted because it will damage the plants. There's many uses to animals, so please just stay there. I'll put you back in a second. There's many uses to them. So obviously the quail give me eggs, and if I wanted to eat their meat, I can. I don't do that very often. The bunnies, they give me meat, but I also tan the pelts, and I've made fish hooks out of their bones. You can even get a breed of rabbit called an Angora, which makes wool. If you want to have rabbit wool, and it takes a long time to get enough wool for a shirt or something, but it's definitely doable, and they're adorable. And then, philosophically speaking, if you eat a steak, a beef steak, you may not have pulled the trigger on that animal, but you've killed it. You have contributed to its death. That animal died so you could have that steak. And my philosophy is that if something is going to die to feed me, I owe it to the animal to do it myself. So, yes, little Dracula here, I just cover his ears. One day I will kill him. I don't enjoy that process. It's a very tough process, but I give him the best life that a bunny could have. He eats, he plays, he has his bunny friends until one day I'll give him one last cuddle and then gone. He won't even realize what's happening until it's done. And so that's probably the most ethical way of doing it. Whereas if you went out and saw where your eggs come from, where you get chicken meat or lamb, those conditions are not great. Not only does it contribute to, food miles where you have to have your meat trucked into the supermarket so you can drive to the supermarket and buy it, and now you're just spewing out exhaust fumes just to have a steak sandwich. He's 20 meters from my back door. My food miles are a couple of steps. So, philosophically speaking, this is more ethical, it's better for the environment, and I at least do the deed myself. I will not contract that out to somebody else. I will not shy away from the dirty job of killing an animal. But that's by the by. When we talk about animal selection, we'll talk about the first rule: care. Before you think about what your animal can do for you, you must ask, can you care for that animal? Can you care for it to a reasonable, or not even reasonable, but to a higher level? Sure, I could take a rabbit, stuff it in a cage, fatten it up and kill it, but that's not what I want to do. I want to raise ethical, happy animals. So on that note, I'm going to put him back. He wasn't happy sitting there posing, so moved him back into his house. So with that, we talk about care. Can you care for the animal? I would love to have goats, but I don't have the space for them. I can't give them the life that they deserve. So I can't have them. Not yet. One day, move to a bigger property and we'll have all the animals. But for now, no. The other one is desired outcome. You need to consider, and we will talk about, what you get from that animal. Is it good for you? So you have lots of space and lots of fodder, and you can absolutely provide the best care possible for a dairy cow, but you're lactose intolerant. Maybe don't get the dairy cow. So with all that in mind, that's what I'm going to be talking about over the next year. And like I said, it's a year-long project because this is a sport of patience and time and relaxation. You can't just, sure, you can pay a landscaper, thousands of dollars, and they'll come in here with trucks and laborers, and they'll throw up a veggie garden for you, and you hire a carpenter to build your shed and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you can have it in a weekend, but that is not how life evolves. That's not how nature grows, and we are trying to emulate natural systems and create a natural ecosystem that functions rather than fighting with nature to try to extract something. I am a steward of this ecosystem. I am not the owner of it. I simply prune things back when they need it, put the manure in the right places, and I just create. I help to build an ecosystem. I'm not here to own anything. That's not the philosophy that I work with. So with all that in mind, keep watching, keep growing with me, pun intended, and understand that it is a long process. And that's why I'm actually starting this now in February, because as we come into autumn, we can start building our soil. And as I said in the beginning, if there is a first step, it is soil. Soil is the first thing we've got to start looking at. We start building up the soil, we start building our raised beds, and we start composting. This is where we begin. So start with me here. And yeah, let's build as we go. The other thing too is I am not a monolith of information. You should definitely not take much information, all your information from me, but definitely get into other things. I've got a big stack of books here that I'll talk about quickly. Before I get into the books, also understand Facebook groups are actually really, really good, and there's probably a Facebook group dedicated to your area, run by somebody local to your community that is probably doing this already, and you can join that Facebook group, search it up, find it, join that Facebook group, and ask your questions there. Particularly with rabbits, I find the Facebook groups are really, really valuable. People are very, very helpful, and they're online all the time. There's thousands of people online all the time, so you can get answers to your questions relatively quickly. Backyard Meat Rabbits Australia, and Raising Rabbits in Colonies are three Facebook groups that come to my mind. Get on there. They're really, really good. On Facebook, of all things. Facebook is usually, I'm not a Facebook fan at all, but that's where I get a lot of good information and recommendations. Speaking of which, Rabbit Production, 10th edition. Very, very detailed, sciencey. It's got, diagrams and, pictures and stuff like that. This is, if you were building a battery farm of rabbits, this is what you would get. That's a really, really good one. What else we got? Everyone asks about this. Feeding rabbits naturally, or beyond the pellet, it's called. Feeding rabbits naturally. It's very small, but they talk about all the things you can feed. They've got different sections that talk about, like, how to grow your own fodder, how to grow your own sprouts, etc. Different things that it's not particularly sciencey, but they talk about a lot of really important and useful stuff. Basically, it comes down to a lot of the weeds in your garden. The rabbits can eat them. Also, the rabbits, they know what they like. If you offer them enough, they'll pick the things they like. Weeds by Diego. Diego popped straight off a pizza box and started teaching foraging in my area. And I went on a couple of his walks and they were really good. Diego's a hilarious guy, and he wrote this book. And oh, I left a letter in here. I hope that isn't a bill or a fine or something. So a lot of the weeds in your garden are edible and tasty. This book kind of examines those. So although it's not a gardening book, it's a really good one to help you look at your garden and say, well, it's actually a great place, even with all the weeds in there. What else we got? Raising rabbits. Not as detailed or involved as the rabbit production book, but it goes a lot into breeds and different breeds of rabbits, and is a really sort of good, maybe a good first entry point, to raising rabbits. Start with that one and then go into the production. That's how I did, and I was very satisfied with my learning curve. Grounded by this young lady. Again, not a gardening book, but talks a lot about soil, and is a very fun read. Soil is amazing. Soil is just one of those things that we don't appreciate enough. It's very useful. Mushrooms, just a book about mushrooms. Read that if you like. I like that. Good book. This is the rabbit production of gardening, and it's local to my area. If you're going to get a gardening book, get a gardening book that is local to your area, such as this one. So, A Guide to Healthier Soils and Plants. It kind of goes into all the details that I'm not going to go into. So it'll talk about, I'll talk about NPK ratios at some point, but this gives you charts about it. Have a go at it, it's great. Gardening for Geeks. This is one of the most fun gardening books I've ever read, and it's got so much cool information. It's got cool little tidbits, cool little factoids. It is a very fun read and so educational. Combine these two books together, I don't think you need many other books at all. This is just one that I had on the shelf. I thought I'd show it to you. If you're in a small space, growing in pots is great, but pots can be expensive. But you probably have these bags lying around, and reusing and recycling, especially things like that, really good. Cut down your impact on the earth. And then a good old encyclopedia of plants and flowers. Get onto that. Read, watch, ask questions, enjoy. This is a fun process, but a patient one. So I think I'm supposed to tell you to like and subscribe. I don't know. If that's what you want to do it. If you don't. That's cool. But I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.